I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years now. We're typical in a lot of ways: 2 kids, a decent house, the usual ups and downs. I deployed overseas about 6 months ago, so I've been away from her and the kids a lot more than I'd like. That's what I want to focus on here because, honestly, I started feeling like something was off the moment I left. Lisa's always been a bit bitchy, always throwing little digs here and there, but I thought that was just her personality. She's the kind of woman who likes to make herself the center of attention, and she can be pretty manipulative, but she always played it off as her being strong or witty. Still, during my deployment, I noticed she was acting different. She'd be short with me during our video calls, snapping at the kids more often, and her excuse was always that she was busy or stressed. I bought it at first, but then I started catching little things that didn't add up. One day, I was in my room, scrolling through some files I'd saved, nothing special, just work-related stuff, and I noticed something strange on her laptop. A folder I didn't recognize named Photos with recent dates. Out of curiosity, I clicked it, expecting maybe old pictures or something, but what I saw made my stomach drop. There were pictures, naked pictures of Lisa. Not just that, there were videos of her, and not just alone. There was this younger guy, who I later found out was my brother Jake, doing things I can't even describe. The videos showed them in my house, in my bedroom, like they owned the damn place, as if I wasn't even there. I couldn't believe my eyes. My wife, my brother in my house, doing things that should never happen. The videos looked recent, from the past few months, and the timestamps confirmed it. They'd been asterisk doing this for a while I was overseas. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I mean, how could she? How could she betray me like that with my own flesh and blood? I felt sick, angry, betrayed. I kept staring at those videos, trying to process what I was seeing, trying to understand how she could be so callous, so cold. I started thinking about the little signs I missed. The way she avoided my eyes, the way her stories about her day would change suddenly, her phone always kept out of sight, even during our video calls. She'd get defensive if I asked questions, but this was a whole other level. I was staring at my wife, the woman I loved, in a way I'd never even imagined. And my brother, my own brother, involved with her. How could he do that? How could she let him? It all felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I knew I couldn't stay silent, I had to confront her, but I also knew that whatever I said next would change everything. My mind was racing. I couldn't even breathe right. I had to figure out how to handle this. How do you confront your wife about cheating on you with your brother? How do you even begin to process that kind of betrayal? The rage, the hurt, the confusion, they all collided inside me in that moment. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the evidence was staring me right in the face. I just didn't know what to do next. That night, I finally decided I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. I stayed up, staring at the screen, replaying those videos in my head, feeling the weight of betrayal crush my chest. I couldn't just ignore it anymore. I had to confront her. I waited until she was supposed to be asleep, but I knew she'd be awake, probably watching TV or scrolling on her phone like she always did late at night. When I finally got up the nerve, I went into our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. Lisa was lying there, scrolling through her phone, pretending to look innocent. I could see the flicker of her screen and her typical bitchy smirk. I took a deep breath and just blurted out, "Lisa, I saw everything." She looked up, her eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about? Saw what?" she asked, her voice sweet but with a dangerous edge. I pulled out my phone, showing her the folder I'd found. Her face changed, instantly white, then red, then furious. "What is this? This is some kind of joke, right? You're seeing things," she said, her voice trembling, but I could tell she was trying to play it cool. I shook my head. "No, Lisa, I saw the videos, you and Jake, in my house, doing things I can't even say, for months." I felt my voice shake, but I didn't care. I'd kept my cool for long enough. She rolled her eyes, sat up, and crossed her arms. "You're crazy. You're deployed, and I was just helping Jake out with something. It's no big deal. You're overreacting." Her tone was dismissive, but her eyes flicked away quickly, like she was hiding something. I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew about the affair, about her lying, about how she played the innocent wife while she was screwing my brother behind my back. Her face twisted and she sneered. You think I'd cheat with Jake? You really are gone, Mike. You're just insecure, it's probably nothing, and you're just jealous. I wanted to scream. How could she lie so easily? How could she deny what was right in front of her? But I also felt a deep hurt, a kind of numbness settling in. I realized then that I didn't just lose my wife. I lost my brother, my trust, everything I thought was real. And yet part of me still hoped she'd admit the truth, maybe beg for forgiveness. But she didn't. She doubled down. That's when I knew this wasn't going to be resolved with a simple talk or some apology. It was worse than I'd imagined, and I had to decide what to do next. I felt a surge of anger, hot, pure, and undeniable. I wanted to hurt her back. I wanted to make her pay for what she'd done. But I also knew that if I didn't handle this carefully, I'd lose everything I cared about. That night, I sat there, watching her, feeling like I was staring at a stranger. And inside, I was already planning my next move. The days that followed were a blur of anger, disbelief, and hurt. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and every time I looked at Lisa, I saw her for what she really was, someone capable of betraying me, cheating with my brother, doing it right under my nose. I kept replaying the videos in my head, trying to convince myself I must have misunderstood, but the evidence was irrefutable. I wanted to smash something, to scream, to make her feel the pain she had caused me. But instead I bottled it all up, knowing I couldn't trust her anymore. I started digging. I needed to understand how long this had been going on. I went through her phone, her messages, her social media. I found that she'd been talking to Jake almost daily, sharing flirty messages, sending photos, planning secret meetups. The worst part was how casual she was about it, like it was nothing more than some game. She told him things she never told me, used pet names, joked about hiding it from me. It was like I was a stranger to her now. That realization cut deep. I thought I knew her, but I was just a placeholder, someone she was pretending to love while she was screwing around with my brother. I also discovered that Lisa had been lying about her whereabouts. She'd tell me she was running errands, visiting friends, doing women's stuff. But the truth was, she was sneaking off to meet Jake or have some secret sex. I saw receipts, GPS logs, and even pictures she'd sent him from places she claimed she never left. It was a sickening betrayal, and it made me furious. How could she do this? How could she lie to me for so long? Did she think I was stupid? Or did she just not care? I knew I had to confront Jake too, but I wasn't ready. I wanted to plan my next move carefully. The first thing I did was cut off her access to her phone and social media. I wanted her to feel what it was like to be caught off guard, to see her lose control. That night, she tried to deny everything again. She told me I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that Jake was just helping her with some project. Her voice was high-pitched, defensive, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. It was pathetic, but I had enough evidence to make it clear she was lying. I kept quiet that night, laying in bed while she tossed and turned, trying to sleep. Inside, I was boiling with rage. I kept thinking about the fact that she had been having sex with my brother, my own flesh and blood, in my house, while I was risking my life overseas. The betrayal felt like a punch to the gut every single day. And yet, I knew this wasn't just about anger or hurt. It was about justice, about making her see that I wasn't going to let her get away with this. The next step was deciding what I wanted, whether to walk away or fight for what was left of my dignity. I knew I couldn't stay married to her after this, not after seeing how cold and manipulative she was. But I also wondered, was there any chance she'd genuinely feel remorse? Could she even feel remorse? Or was she just going to keep lying and pretending like nothing had happened? I was coming to the conclusion that I had to get out, not just for myself but for my kids. They deserved better than a mother who cheated with their uncle and lied about it. That night, I sat in the dark, clutching my phone, planning my escape. I knew I couldn't tell her everything right now. That would just push her further away, make her more defensive. But I also knew I had to act fast. The betrayal was too fresh, too raw. I had to protect myself, my kids, and my dignity. I was angry at her, yes, but underneath all that anger was heartbreak. I felt like I'd been stabbed multiple times, and I wondered how I was going to pick up the pieces. I just hoped I had the strength to do what was right. The morning after I gathered all my evidence, I knew I couldn't keep this inside any longer. I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. My stomach was a knot of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak. I got up early, made coffee, and sat in the living room trying to gather my thoughts. Lisa was still asleep, probably exhausted from her sleepless night of pretending everything was normal. I knew I had to face her, confront her directly, but I wasn't sure I could do it without losing my temper. When she finally woke up, I called her into the living room. Her face was already defensive, like she sensed I was about to blow. I looked straight at her and said, "Lisa, I know everything. About you and Jake. About the videos, the messages, the lies. I've seen enough. I trusted you, and look what you did." My voice was steady but firm, leaving no room for denial. She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk, like she thought she could play innocent still. "Mike, you're overreacting. You're probably just jealous or insecure. This isn't what it looks like," she said, trying to brush it off, but I cut her off. "No, Lisa, you're the one who's insecure. You're the one who cheated on me with my brother, in my house, for months." I paused for a moment, trying to keep my composure. "I want you to pack your bags. You're leaving. I can't be with someone who lies, who screws around with my family, and who thinks she can get away with it." Her face sank for a moment, then her usual bitchy attitude came back. "You're crazy, Mike. You're just mad because you're not here. You don't understand what real life is like. I don't need you or your stupid rules." Her voice cracked at the end, but she was trying to be tough. I knew her well enough to see she was panicked inside. I told her that this wasn't just about anger anymore. It was about respect, about honesty. That I deserved better than a wife who cheats, lies, and manipulates. She tried to deny everything, of course, but I pulled out the evidence I'd collected, screenshots, videos, GPS logs, and put them right in front of her. I told her I'd already contacted a lawyer, that I was done, and that I was going to protect my kids from the mess she created. She snapped, started yelling, calling me controlling, accused me of spying on her, of being paranoid. She said I was the one who was insecure, that I was the one who didn't trust her. I couldn't take her lies anymore. I told her I'd had enough and it was over, that she needed to leave that day. She finally got up, grabbed her purse, and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I watched as she got into her car, her face twisted in anger and contempt. I felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. Relief because I finally took control, but heartbreak because I knew I'd lost her, and more painfully, I'd lost my brother too. I'd never imagined that my marriage, my family, would come crashing down because of her lies and his betrayal. Over the next few days, everything changed. The house felt emptier than ever. My kids sensed something was wrong, but I didn't want to scare them with details. I just told them that Mommy was taking a break and that Daddy needed some time to figure things out. I focused on making sure they felt loved and safe, even if inside I was a mess. I also reached out to a lawyer, started the process of separation, and took steps to protect my assets and my kids' future. I was angry, yes, but I realized I had no choice but to move forward. I didn't want her to win, didn't want her to think she could get away with destroying my life. That's when I finally accepted that I had to let her go, and that this whole nightmare was a wake-up call about trust, betrayal, and what really matters. After I made the decision to kick her out and start the separation process, things didn't get any easier. If anything, the pain intensified. I'd spend hours staring at the wall, replaying everything in my mind. Her lies, the videos, her sneering face when she denied everything. It was like I was trapped in a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. The anger simmered beneath the surface, but I also felt a deep sadness, like I'd lost not just my wife, but the future I'd envisioned with her. My kids didn't fully understand what was happening, but they could feel the tension. They'd ask questions, and I'd try to keep it simple. I told them Mommy was busy and needed some time away. It tore me apart to see their little faces confused and worried, but I knew I had to be strong for them. I spent as much time with them as I could, trying to give them normal routines, even while my world was falling apart. The hardest part was dealing with Lisa's lies after she left. She kept calling, trying to twist things around, saying she was sorry, that she made a mistake, but then she'd slip back into her manipulative tone, blaming me for everything. "You're the one who's insecure," she'd say. "I was just helping Jake out, it's not a big deal." I didn't want to hear it. I knew her game now. She was desperate to save her own ass, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I had all the proof I needed. Meanwhile, I started seeing a counselor. Not because I was weak, but because I realized I couldn't do this alone. I had to process what happened, deal with the betrayal, and figure out how to rebuild my life. My counselor asked me hard questions about trust, about betrayal, about how I was feeling. I told him everything from the videos to the lies, the heartbreak to the anger. He told me that I was right to feel betrayed and that I needed time to heal. That advice hit home. I couldn't rush this. I had to let myself feel everything: anger, sadness, disappointment, without shame. I also started reaching out to friends who'd known me for years, people who could give me real support. I needed to hear that I wasn't crazy, that I deserved better. Slowly but surely, I was learning to accept that this was the end of my marriage, and maybe even my relationship with my brother. I knew I was hurt, but I also knew I had to focus on moving forward. I started to look for new jobs, somewhere I could be independent, and rebuild my confidence. The house felt emptier than ever, but I told myself I'd get through this. I'd find a way to make sense of it all, even if it seemed impossible right now. Every day was a struggle, but I was determined not to let her betrayal define me. I also realized that I'd been blind for too long. I should have seen the signs, asked more questions, been more protective. But in the end, I understood that I was only human. No one is perfect, and sometimes you learn life lessons the hard way. The most important thing now was to focus on my kids, my own healing, and making sure I didn't get fooled again. This whole thing taught me a brutal lesson about trust, about who to believe, and about standing up for myself. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I can't go back. Not after this. I'm hurt, I'm angry, but I'm also determined to rebuild myself without her. And that's what I want others to understand. No matter how deep the betrayal, you can survive it. You just have to be willing to face the truth, no matter how ugly it gets. Now looking back, I realize that this whole ordeal has changed me in ways I never expected. I used to think trust was something you just gave someone and hoped they'd respect it. Turns out, I was naive. Trust has to be earned, and sometimes, even the people closest to you can betray you in the worst ways. I've learned to be more cautious, more protective of myself and my kids. I've also learned that forgiveness isn't always about forgetting or excusing what happened. Sometimes it's about accepting that you can't change the past, but you can control how you move forward. I don't hate Lisa, honestly. I feel sorry for her. She's the one who lost her integrity, her dignity, and her family, all for some fleeting moment of excitement or rebellion. I hope she'll one day realize what she threw away. But I know I can't make her see that now. All I can do is focus on my healing and making sure my kids grow up in a world where they see what honesty and loyalty really mean. The most valuable lesson I've taken from this is that I deserve better. Everyone does. No one should accept betrayal, manipulation, or lies just to hold on to something that's already broken. I've come to terms with the fact that I might never fully trust her again, and that's okay. Because what I want now is stability, honesty, and a fresh start. My advice to anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation: don't ignore the signs. Don't let your love or your hopes blind you to the truth. When you see red flags, face them head on. Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's better than living in denial. Protect yourself, protect your heart, and don't be afraid to walk away if you have to. Because if someone truly cares about you, they won't betray you like that. Right now, I'm still healing. I'm still rebuilding, but I'm stronger than I was yesterday. And I know that eventually I'll find happiness again, without her, without all the lies. I'm not perfect, but I'm real. And that's enough to keep me going.